Welcome to the show. I'm Olivia Nunn, and this is where we rise, rebuild, and remember that storms don't break us, they reveal us. So let's get right into it. And I'm here with a very good friend, RJ Casey, who not only served in the United States Army, he also served in the U.S. Air Force. So, RJ, thank you so much for spending time with me here on the Unbreakable Storm. So let's just jump into your story. How did you go from Army and then to the Air Force? And as we get into that, we will jump into all your unbreakable moments.
Okay. No, thanks for having me, Olivia. When you were telling me about your podcast, I thought it was an amazing idea because there's not a lot that focus on. Everyone's like, oh, this was incredible, but nobody talks about, oh my God, like, how did you react to that? Because that's horrible. So I really appreciate it. Yeah, as far as Army, full disclosure, I was on loan to active duty quite a bit with 5th and 7th Group to specific ODAs, mainly scuba teams. But I've always been Guard and Reserve. So I was in 2nd Battalion, 19th Special Forces Group out of West by God, Virginia. And a lot of great memories, great unit. Still friends with H.B. Gillum, who's at SF Charitable Trust. Tom Workman, who sent me everywhere, cut all our orders. Just an amazing group of guys. So that's kind of where I had my Special Operations Foundation. And then I was contracting as well. So that's really why I ended up switching kind of branches and career fields. I switched the Air Force when I was told, we're not going to lose you for a year to 18 months. You got to get out of 19th Group. And I started looking around. I looked at PSYOP, civil affairs, and everyone was getting hit with a year plus after 9/11, which is when they told me that, or post 9/11. And so I was at a crash site in South America, and there was a SF medic named Rob Trexler and another 18 Delta named Mark De Pasquale, and they were like, oh, what are you going to, I told them the story. Yeah, they told me to get out. They're like, well, what are you going to do? And I said, well, man, I guess I'm going to have to get out. And they're like, you should go be a PJ. And I was like, guys, I can't go active duty. And they said, they have Guard and Reserve too. So what I always liked about the PJs is they were jump and dive. It wasn't one or the other like in SF or Special Forces. So, and their focus was point of injury medicine and technical rescue. So between all four of those categories, I was like, man, I'm gonna do my homework and check out some of those units, which I did, and it worked out great. I ended up joining a really cool unit in the New York Air Guard, the 103rd RQS, and had a blast out there. It was an easy transition. People are like, wow, what's the culture like? Is it different? By the time I left there, we had 5 Ranger tab wearing PJs, and I was one of them. And then we had a couple guys. We had probably 4 guys from the Marine Corps. 3 of them were Marine Recon, former Marine Recon turned PJs. So yeah, it was great, and all of it synergistically led right into contracting, and helped. All those skills from both those career fields helped with contracting. So it's actually worked out really good. Well.
So, but I think we should back up just a little bit,
Sure.
right? This is kind of like a strategic overview of your 2 careers, but really there's stories that need to be unpacked, right? For both of those careers. Let's kind of go back to the beginning.
Okay.
In your Army career specifically. Your Army career wasn't exactly easy and perfect per se. Like, you had some challenges. You had some moments in your career where you didn't always do the right thing. And it wasn't this picture perfect.
No, definitely not.
RJ Casey, the great soldier, right?
Oh.
Because to me, this is funny, right? When we had our back conversation before we started the podcast, right? As you're telling me some of your story, because I've known you now for, I think, a few years. Yeah. To me, the RJ Casey that I know is like this very polished gentleman who has, this Very polished presentation. And so as you're telling me this younger version of RJ Casey, I just was kind of left speechless. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you had this story. So I would love for you to kind of just, those moments that just, while they were some of your early rock bottom moments, they really shaped you to be the man that you are today.
Yeah, and just the other thing too is I'm still making mistakes. Like I'm not done with that part of my life apparently, because I don't think anybody's perfect, but especially recently, a couple of things have occurred that have humbled me again, and that usually happens when you get cocky or when you are basically, as a very close friend of mine has told me, out of alignment. So yeah, there's still some of that. I would say the earliest militarily, because I made mistakes before, I even started heading into military school and then into, special forces. I had a few mistakes before that, but probably the biggest one that I can point to definitively was I got kicked out of military school with 4 other guys. And, I was a distinguished military student on scholarship, at a military school. I was at New Mexico Military Institute. And apparently we got cocky, let our guard down, and just started really doing stupid stuff. And the straw that broke the camel's back on that was we took a test to see if we had been drinking, and we had. So a bunch of us got kicked out right before Christmas, our sophomore year, and I guess some prayers were answered and some people were looking out for us. And usually when you get kicked out of a military school, you get kicked out for that semester. You have to sit out a semester. And if you can get your Sierra together, they may or may not let you back in after that. But 2 of us, in fact, a really good friend of mine, Scott Robeson, was one of the guys in the group. We were both distinguished military students. We get kicked out. We're both on scholarship. And so the school was like, these kids are on scholarship. They're going to have, like, if they break this contract for this scholarship, they're going to have to join the military. So they kind of took a look at it and they said, okay, we're going to make you guys a deal. Based on this is your first infraction, although it's a major one, we're going to give you guys a chance and you better not screw it up. But this is what we're going to do. We're going to have you sit out the rest of this semester. We're going to invite you back next semester. One of the first things you're going to have to do is sit down for a series of CLEP tests, and you're going to have to CLEP out of last semester's courses. So are you guys okay with that? And we're like, oh my God, you're going to do that? And because we're all wondering what the hell we're going to do. And my dad was a colonel at the Pentagon at the time, so you can imagine how that phone call went. No bueno. So that was kind of the first time I was like, but before they gave us that, they had that conversation. I was like, oh my God, my life is over. My dream of going special forces is gone. So that was pretty visceral. And that was one of the first of many, unfortunately, humbling experiences that I had. So yeah, I'd say that was the first one.
So you start early,
yeah.
right? Basically your early career as a soon-to-be officer,
Right. Yeah.
not starting off on the right foot. You have a father who's a colonel. And you think that maybe that would have set the tone, but it doesn't. So your career's starting here early. Mm-hmm. And as you say, right, life is a series of transitions, and it's a series of reinventing and learning and growing and stretching beyond the comfort zone.
Yeah. Right.
And for anyone who's maybe done a quick search of who you are as they're listening into your story, you've got this very remarkable accomplishment, right? Not only were you a PJ, and for those that don't know, that's the special side, right? The special ops guys in the Air Force. Can you tell us a little bit about what what do they do actually in the Air Force besides doing the cool stuff of jumping out of planes and?
Yeah, I'll briefly go over another rock bottom moment, and there was one between the two, but the one that got me on the trek that allowed me to even consider becoming a pararescueman was in 1994. I had a really bad free fall accident, and it was literally one of those things where we were jumping all day in very high winds. We were jumping non-standard rigs. I can't remember if they were 210s or 150s, but it was for a DARE program. So I don't know if that is even still around, but DARE was basically, it was a kind of a Reagan-esque program where they wanted us to go around and say, look, if you get into drugs, you're in trouble. So we had a parachute team with DARE on our parachutes, and we would jump into high schools and talk to the kids and say, hey, you know, we couldn't do this if we were on drugs, kind of thing. But anyways, we were jumping all day, and then at the very end of the day, we ended up jumping one last time that wasn't scheduled. And of course, that was a mistake in and of itself. I'll never do that again. But the winds died down. All of us got hit by wind shears, and we were kind of scattered everywhere. The JM didn't exactly do the best recalculation for winds, and there were still pockets of winds whipping through the hills of West Virginia. So if you're familiar with that terrain, when the sun starts going down, all the winds die at altitude, but there's still pockets just flying and screaming through the hills. And you can call them wind shears because at that altitude, they're going to hit you and your parachute. So I got hit by one, blown into some trees at a farmer said over 50 miles an hour, and I had a really freak, complete talar dislocation. So basically my foot was attached to me by skin only. All my ligaments were perfectly ripped in half, and I was very lucky to maintain my blood supply. All those vessels were intact, but still I was staring at the sole of my boot, and my foot was, completely on the inside of my leg, bunched up and facing me. It wasn't good. And I had a surgeon tell me, you're never going to walk normal again. So that was pretty startling to hear that. And I was mad enough to say, you know what? Don't worry about it. Do your freaking job. I'll worry about everything that happens after that. Do a good job. That's all you need to do. Just cut. And so he did. And to make a long story short, after 11 months of thinking about, wow, what am I really going to do if I couldn't walk normal again? And I dropped my commission after that. After I did a couple of trips because I said I would, I dropped my commission and went 18 Delta. And my whole plan was to go to med school and stay in 18 Delta on an ODA. So that was a long road to come to that decision and then actually do all of that. And then the 18 Delta course is no walk in the park. That's a year of medical, academic, and physical suffering. So, but because I did that, I was able to go on to physician assistant school. I went to the inter-service physician assistant program, which is amazing. I was very lucky to be put on active duty for 2 years from the Guard and go accomplish that course. And then years later, after the agency said, hey, you got to get out, and I decided to go PJ, my resume was a pretty easy fit into their skill set. So pararescue are probably some of the best rescue technicians in the world, especially in the special operations realm. We have a very broad charter, and our motto basically is that others may live. And what falls under that umbrella is you could be asked any time to go anywhere in any situation and rescue those people from the worst day of their life. So that's everything from natural disasters and earthquakes to hurricanes to anything and everything. And that's just one category that rescue gets called out to do. The other one is combat search and rescue. So there's dust-offs, but when units are still engaged and they've got casualties that just can't wait until the enemy situation or the tactical situation calms down, we go in and we, basically fly in or jump in or whatever we need to do to get to those guys, get in their CCP, repackage, and then exfil with those patients and let them keep going without worrying about their buddies dying on them. So, and honestly, our job is as rapidly and as fast as we can, using all resources, getting people to the right surgeon. So our job isn't to save life, it's to maintain those lives until we can actually get them to a surgeon in those cases, because guys are all shot up. So what they really need is a surgeon. So the really good PJs basically patch guys up and, take care of all life threats before they, or while in transit to get them to those surgeons. And in places like Afghanistan, we had amazing, amazing surgeons on the ground, and they saved a lot of lives. So I felt very lucky to be able to let them do their job. And, I'm honored to do our job as pararescue men. There's mountain rescue. There's, little planes are crashing on glaciers in Alaska. There's an Alaska team up in Anchorage. Those guys are amazing. They get rescues a couple times a week, and everything from bear mauling to jumping into a snowstorm because somebody in a cabin is septic somewhere. Literally. So there's some really crazy missions out there. One of the craziest missions that didn't have anything to do with combat or natural disaster was a deep sea rescue. So I think it was like 1,300 miles off the coast. 2 German citizens, their sailboat caught on fire, and it was a father-son team. The dad was 60, the son was 40. The son had very bad burns. The dad wasn't doing great, with smoke inhalation and everything in between. So by the time we sent a jump team after him, they were in a life raft because their sailboat was burned and gone. And like skin was sloughing off, some of it was bad. It was really bad. So a jump team went in there, grabbed those guys, stabilized them. They made it to a ship where they could do more, basically kind of next level care. And then they finally got them to the highest level of care that they could and save those 2 guys. So there's a lot going on, a lot of different missions. And the other thing that's really cool about pararescue, so pararescue and combat controllers are very small groups of people in the Air Force. They're very small career fields. And I'm talking anywhere from 500 to 800 guys working active guard and reserve. And, CCT and PJs and combat controllers are the guys that can actually call in aircraft and act as basically an airport tower anywhere in the world after they survey the ground and make sure it's okay for different weights for different planes. Then they call them in. The other thing they do in the battle space when things are going sideways is they call in aircraft and with precision land the right ordnance on the wrong people, the bad guys that are trying to make everything stay sideways, and this combat controllers really save the day. And then the PJs are special operations medical guys, so and rescue technicians. So because they're Halo and Scuba, they can really get attached to anybody, whether it's a Special Forces operational detachment or a SEAL platoon or any of the Tier 1 units. And we have the 2-4 PJs, and then the whole career field from both sides augment those guys to help support their missions. So it's pretty amazing, and it's a wild career field.
I will tell you, I had the opportunity when I was on my second deployment to work at MNDB Baghdad, which is Multinational Division Baghdad in Iraq. And I will say that I represented, or I was a liaison officer for my brigade. And I sat in the Tactical Operations Center, which was this huge, massive room because every single brigade had a representative there, and I was the one for my unit. And I had the opportunity to work with every single organization that was operating in that space, whether you were on the ground or in the air. And I actually worked with some of the PJs that were in that space, and just I will tell you, as you're talking, it reminded me of that time there. And when you talk about operations and when they're in sync and when they're coordinated during an operation, to see that on the screen, it's a beautiful thing. When an operation's unfolding and it's time on target, and you're going after the bad guy, and you see all of these different pieces that are moving in order to get the mission done. And for me, it fires me up to be able to see the precision, and at the end of the day, doing something that we're good at and being able to take out the enemy precisely. So, but while you're talking and while you're saying that, what that to me sounds like controlled chaos, right? Beautiful controlled chaos. But chaos also brings, unfortunately, rock bottom moments, and just storms that, whether we like them or not, can bring us to our knees, whether they're in our personal life or even in our military service. For you, you weren't just a service member, whether it was a soldier during your time in the Army or an airman while you're in the Air Force. You were also a husband, a partner, a father as well. So how did this impact you, and what storms were they for you as you were trying to be the best that you can be in uniform? How did that impact you outside of uniform?
So I know I've talked a lot about the military. I've only deployed twice with the military. All my others were as a contractor supporting ground and maritime operations. That's what kept me at home. That's what kept me away from home the most. Anywhere from 2 months on to 2 months off, to 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, or 5-month trips out of nowhere. So it's, you talked about controlled chaos. Uncontrolled chaos is somebody who, is on a schedule where you're on kind of the electronic leash and you can get a call anytime. I was more of a rotational guy though, so it was, it worked out to where I could agree to a schedule for the year, and some things would pop up like training. Hey, this one guy broke his leg. Can you do this? There's different things that, and curveballs that can fly up, and, that you get the phone call for those. But for the most part, it wasn't too bad. And I could manage expectations as good as you can in that environment. But when I was home, Like, I could focus on family and friends, and really all I had to do was kind of work out, do continuing medical education hours here and there, but, maybe go to a point of injury refresher course or something like that. But for the most part, it was really nice, because when I was off for 2 months, I was not in a cubicle in Northern Virginia. I was actually at home in West Virginia with family and surrounded by friends. So, but that being gone that much is very tough on any family. And I was helping with a film called Tame the Kraken, and it was an SBS guy. It was a documentary about an SBS guy who wanted to shine a light on the suicide problem in the UK and to some of the allied services. So he rode from California to Hawaii. It took him 48 days, and the weather was not nice. Like, it was brutal here and there. Storms were popping up all the time on him. But during that time, we had a fireside chat with him, and I told the guys, I was like, I don't know who had the crazier job. Us, when we were downrange, I mean, at least we could focus on different missions, different tasks. We could focus on training, and we could, as much as you can in that environment, you can kind of control things when you're going to hit a target. But for the people left back at home when you were gone and seeing these crazy stories in the news and not knowing if you're even in that country, like, that has that had to be brutal for them. I think their mental health definitely got thin when you're gone, especially in those years, 2002 to 2007. Rules of engagement changed, then it just ramped up and scaled back depending on what was going on at the time. But those were a couple brutal decades for families at home that were waiting on their loved ones to come back from work, and I can imagine how tough that was.
You, besides doing all of this contract work and your time in service, talk to me about the other projects that you do. Because if you look up who you are involved in other things, right? You've got some businesses, you're involved in some partnership, right? Talk to me about what you do outside of what keeps you busy in your day job.
So I'm a co-founder in two companies. The first is Brigands Co. So we have done our best to build community for veterans, first responders, and their families. Once you're out of the military, it's really easy to feel and isolate yourself, and that's not good for anybody. So we've really done our best to build community, and we've done everything from beach cleanups to fundraiser road marches, and helped other nonprofits that are aligned and helping all those service members, those first responders and families. So that's been an amazing journey with Dylan Curtis, a friend of mine. He was a First Ranger bad guy, and then he got out and he's with New Smyrna Beach Fire Department. His brother Connor's at DeLand Fire, so the three of us hang out. And we've kind of gathered a group of friends that we get together every once in a while, check in on each other, and it's been really, really cool. The other thing we do through that company is get guys work. So we work in different industries. So we mentor everything from kids that want to go in the fire department or the military to getting veterans jobs. We've gotten veterans on several feature films. And usually I'm involved and they're like, hey, you can bring 4 guys. And so I immediately go to the veteran community and I kind of match the skill set with the project. But I mean, those are life-changing paychecks for those guys. When you can make over 6 figures in under 6 months, like guys in the military, just most of them can't fathom that or don't think about that at all. But it's been really cool to help out friends and veterans with different things, and to show them, hey, here's an industry where your military skills translate perfectly when you're the real world rescue element for this stunt insanity that is Extraction 2 with Sam Hargrave and Chris Hemsworth. And you're there to make sure, when it goes sideways, because it most likely will, you're there to make sure that those guys stay as safe as they can be, and when they're not, you're there to take care of that situation as well. So it's a lot of planning, and then everyone's ready for execution. So it's pretty wild. And this stunt community, that's not to say they're a bunch of cowboys, because they're not. They're incredibly professional. They do a lot of rehearsals, a lot like when you're on a line and you're getting pulled off a bridge into a water or into a wall or whatever it is. They do bag testing to make sure the PSI is correct. The guy doesn't get thrown 5 feet too far or thrown too hard, just perfect. So before those stunt people get on those lines, there's a lot of prep that goes into that. So, but you never know. So always hope for the best and expect the worst. And it's been an honor to do things like that. The other company I'll talk about is Four Branches Bourbon. So we're 4 founders. We all represent a different branch of the military. and we have this amazing bourbon. The four of us were very lucky to work with a 50-year bourbon Hall of Fame legend, Steve Nally, at Bardstown Bourbon Company. Bardstown, Kentucky is the bourbon capital of the world. Their CEO is Mark Irwin. He's a former Delta Force commander. Small world story, and there's a ton of them. We all kind of know, some of the same people, and it's pretty amazing organization. So Steve Nally helped us put our bourbon together, our original foundational founder's blend. And then we also have Greg Schneider. He's a 47-year bourbon legend. He's started a couple different companies that are pretty famous and very famous. What am I kidding? Pretty famous. And it's been amazing to work with Greg. We've been working with him for a couple years now. Just awesome. And the other thing about those companies, and you'll see a pattern of, alignment. But part of our company, with all the veteran self-medication and suicide, we knew we had to do something. And there's first responders, the NFL, like we're definitely not the only communities with those problems. But at the top of every bottle, you'll see around the neck, drink honorably. And we just want everyone to stop drinking to forget and sip to remember. So that's a big, big part of our company. And then also, we've only been on the market a couple years, and we've given over $500,000 between bottle donations that we jumped into the 80th anniversary of D-Day and signed them by all the founders. And we donate those bottles to auctions for the Special Forces Charitable Trust or Folds of Honor or some of the other well-known organizations and nonprofits that are helping our communities. And then we'll cut a check for not so well-known nonprofits like the Third Option Foundation and some other ones they're definitely under the radar, and they help a lot of people. So, that's the two main companies. As far as other adventures, I helped start and build with Anil Menon, who's an astronaut with NASA right now, but he was the first medical director. And between Anil and Brent Manny, a legendary PJ who works at Det3 Human Spaceflight Performance, I was very honored to be tapped to go over there and help them with that endeavor. So rescuing and recovering astronauts is very specialized. The astronaut community is really cool. They're just a great group of people, and they're doing amazing things, obviously. So I'm really excited in that realm to see Starship start launching humans, because when that happens, between cargo and humans, we're going to be able to move a lot of logistics and support, plus the people, to do even more amazing things. So it's exponentially going to jump up quite a bit when that happens. So very exciting. And then, as I alluded to before, the movie business, incredible movies. I love the storytelling. I've been a movie fan ever since I was 10 years old, waiting in a line that was wrapped around a movie theater with my dad and my brother Quinn, to go see Star Wars. So yes, I'm that old. But I've been a huge movie fan, and to be a part.
You're not that old. We're about the same age.
Okay. Well, you're holding your age well, me. But no, it's been an honor to work on like multiple Christopher Nolan movies and stunt insanity like Extraction 2, and to be able to consult on really important stories like the John Chapman story. To get paid to go to the Galapagos Islands for 6 weeks for Ron Howard and Eden, and to know guys like Patrick Newell, who's a line producer, and he's incredible. I've joked with him a couple times, and I wasn't joking, but he laughed. But I'm like, Patrick, I wish we had more commanders like you in the military. Like, here's a guy who kind of kept people in mission side by side, and he really gave a shit about both of them. Like, he really cared, and he really made sure that everyone had everything they need, they were taken care of, and he's just amazing. I got to meet people like Matt Westbrook, an agency case officer who had to get out early to go take care of his dad when he got cancer, and he's got crazy projects lined up, and just amazing. I've just felt very lucky to be part of that community as well. And then I still contract, so hopefully some things go through, because I've switched sections. I kind of took a pause after working for the section I was involved with, and I went over to one of the components, and I'm about to switch to another. So and I'm still in the reserves, sort of. I'm going to have to drill down on that. Everyone's still trying to figure out if I'm retired or not. But yeah, I've been lucky to keep jumping and diving.
I guess we'll be standing by to figure that one out.
Yeah, no, really, I am. My chief was just joking. He was like, "Look, maybe you can't be an officer anymore, but as soon as we really figure out that's what's going on officially, like, I'll swear you in as a E7 again, whatever." And then a buddy of mine, Anna Paulina Luna's husband, Anna Paulina Luna and Andy Gamberski are an amazing couple. So if you don't know who she is, she's a congresswoman in Florida, and he's a former CCT. So they met in the Air Force. She was military intelligence, and he was a CCT, or a combat controller, up in North Florida at Herbie, and they met up there. And he and I have been on, we dive as scientific divers with Force Blue, another nonprofit that converts combat divers into scientific divers. And we do a lot of marine conservation. And what I think most people aren't conscious of, especially the other scientific divers, and I brought this to as many people as I can's attention, but when you're on this boat in between tanks and dives, you're talking with other veterans, and that is very cathartic and very therapeutic. And usually after each trip, one of the newer guys will come up and go, "Man, RJ, did you know what I was going to do instead of go on this trip? Like, before I got the call to be on this trip, do you know what I was planning?" And I was like, "Oh man," and it's the unthinkable. And he goes on this trip. He's repurposed. He's meeting a good group of motivated guys. They're doing an incredible mission. And at the end of that week, he's like, "When's the next one? When's the next one?" So it's really incredible. But anyways, back to Andy. He and I were on the boat probably 4 or 5 years ago, and we discussed the idea of standing up the 3rd Special Tactics Squadron for the Air National Guard. And we both knew intuitively that squadron should be in Florida. So fast forward to now, and the 127th STS looks like it's going to be stood up. So I might help start that, and help with be one of their first director of operations, or at least pour the foundation with the right personalities on the support, logistics, and operations side to make sure that that's a successful endeavor. So a lot of exciting things. I think I stay busy to put off things and to stay compartmentalized. So I'm just, as I'm facing the end of turning in a couple of security clearances, I'm kind of rogering up to go to a 3-day TBI screening at Thrive at the University of North Carolina. One of my old 18 Delta instructor, he's not old, I'm older than he is, but Sammy Rodriguez encouraged me to apply for the program, and I was picked and I went, and that just kind of started unpacking a lot of things for me. And so I'm looking for more in-depth programs to drill a little further and deeper on my mental as well as physical health, as I get a little older, a little wiser, and know that I shouldn't be putting that off. I should be, and honestly, the newer guys in my pararescue squadron, they have POTIF programs, and they have those for the special forces groups and the SEAL teams, and the military is getting a lot smarter about the wear and tear on their line people. And so we have a POTF program, which is preservation of the force and family. And so I would go there occasionally just out of curiosity, but now I'm fully engaged. Like every chance I get, I'm in front of those guys. So
Yeah.
It's been pretty amazing. I'll say the last endeavor that I have, and I don't talk about it much, but is being a dad. That's whether, it sounds like I'm insanely busy, but that's the most important thing that I look forward to every second of every day. So there's probably a couple other things, but that's pretty much the big rocks in that swimming pool.
It's interesting that you say that you stay busy. And if somebody was listening in, they would say, "Oh my God, when do you sleep?" And I'm very familiar with when you say that, because if you listen to me ramble about the things that I stay busy, people would say the same thing. Like, "Oh my God, Olivia, when do you sleep?" When I ramble off the things that I do. Mm-hmm. And I am very familiar with what you said about staying busy and compartmentalizing the busyness of my life, because it's easier to do that than sometimes to sit down in the stillness of the events that have accumulated through my life. And let's be honest, because the events that in my life aren't the happiest, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of goes back to what you said earlier and talking about being on the boat, being able to share, because those are cathartic moments, and how they were saving moments. And I say this often, and often I think times people don't really understand when I say this unless you've been there yourself. Smiles hide a lot. They hide a lot of pain.
Oh, yeah.
They hide a lot of truth. They hide deep meaning. And I say this as well, that you really need to pick up the phone and call your friends. And social media is not a good indicator in judgment to see or to know if your friends are doing well.
Sure.
Because if you're like me, whose job is to do social media for yourself or for other clients, I am great at hiding behind a lens of greatness when in fact my life is falling apart. So social media is not a great litmus test of that you're okay. In fact, 99% of times I'm not okay. So I'm glad to know that you are taking your health, both mental and physical, in the direction that you need to be able to unpack, because transition in the realm that you're going, unpacking your career in the service that you have in our nation, that's huge, right? Mm-hmm. Reconfiguring who you are, rediscovering who you are, especially as you age, right? Because while your mind may act like it's 25, your body is reminding you that you're not 25.
For sure.
And so, how do you reconcile that? But, you have done so many incredible things, right? And you continue to do so many incredible things, and you give back to our community. And I applaud you for that. And I am just in awe of so many of the things that you do. And, oftentimes we message, some of the heart pounding, pumping moments of not just jumping out of planes, but just from a perspective of the ocean and of just some of the serene moments. But, I jokingly say that I think I missed my calling growing up. I probably should have went into stunt work if I didn't join the military.
Well, you still can.
But I truly do
so
appreciate everything that you continuously do. I don't know if my body would agree. But
you're on an adventure, right?
But looking back, yeah, you know what? I will never turn down an adventure. That part, I will truly never. I will never turn down an adventure. I think that's my problem. I'm an adrenaline junkie.
Yeah. Well,
Even though I'm truly afraid of heights, I will still push myself.
you know what? I'm afraid of heights too, so you're not alone in
You know,
that. One of the things that I was helping a friend this morning. We were up in St. Augustine. Is Rick Prado. He has a book called Black Ops, and it's about his amazing career from PJ to Northern Virginia. But I was telling him, we were talking about, friends that we were worried about that aren't doing well. And we both have friends like towards the end of their life, whether they were, passed away because of old age or the unthinkable. But we were kind of talking about that. And recently it struck me that I was calling people and say, hey, I'm just checking on you. And I wasn't. I was trying to connect with them. And so I said, and I'd love to have your audience hear this, but I think when somebody that you haven't heard from in a while is checking in with you, it might be because they need help. So, and our community is smart, and we hope that they reach out when they need help. But, if somebody's like, oh, I'm fine, and that's when you hear those words exactly, and probably said at that speed, he's brushing by something. So, you're fine, huh? What's going on? And as soon as you do it, like, oh, this guy's going to actually listen to me, or this girl's going to listen to me. And then they'll kind of let you, take a peek at what might be going on in that person's life. So, that communication, the subtle hints, because we don't want to admit that we're weak or things aren't so great or whatever. So I would say, take care of each other and reach out. Not just when you feel like you need help, but reach out whenever, because helping other people is, both sides are getting a lot out of it. So it feels really good, and it makes you feel accomplished when you help somebody. But also you're helping that person. You're making them feel heard. You're suggesting things that they may or may not have thought of. You're directing them to people that they had no idea, groups to help in certain situations, like maybe the one they're in. So it's, we need to take care of each other more.
I couldn't agree with you more, 1,000%. Looking back as we close out, in the storms that you've gone through in your life and you've endured them, what were the moments or the thing that you were able to hold on to get you through it? What were the tools that you were able to use? Was it prayer? Was it your family? Was it your friends? Was it belief? What were they to just kind of get you through, and then for you to hold on, and so that you were successful?
I think so. I wouldn't say I was a very religious person. I was raised Catholic, and sometimes I joke I'm a recovering Catholic trying to get over the guilt. But I do think there is, I do think religion means well, to connect you to something higher than yourself. They don't always do it in the greatest way, and but I do consider myself a spiritual person, and having faith that things are going to work out. If there's a situation where you could go positive or negative in your thoughts, my default hopefully is to be positive and remain positive no matter how dark it gets or how negative everything around you might seem. And I think that your mindset is important because, and I tell kids this all the time, especially mine, there's some things you can control and there's some things you can't. And all you can really control is what's going on inside you, and then you can control how you react to things or don't react to things. Not everything needs a reaction. So, be empathetic, If somebody's really coming at you, it's like, I wonder what's going on with that person, because it's not usually about you at all. So I think knowing that things are going to be all right, or at least trying to remind myself when I'm starting to go down negative roads that's what I should focus on. That's kind of the primary thought. And there's a lot of different defense mechanisms, so I always also joke with, especially people that ask about going into special operations and how are you getting through these selection courses? I really want to do that. What's the key? I think one of the, obviously always do your best, but one of the keys is keeping your sense of humor, even when you just think you can't walk one more step. Like, have a sense of humor about it, because it will be okay. And if you're gonna laugh or cry, I would have laugh as a default and kind of use humor to get through a lot of tough times, especially with your friends. I walked into a room well before 9/11, and my friend had a gun in his mouth, and I was like, and no medical training at all. This is before I went 18 Delta, physician assistant. Not that they prepared me for that situation. Like, it's hard to know what to do, but I immediately switched to humor, and I was like, oh, God, that doesn't look like it tastes very good. And thank God, he started chuckling, and he pulled the weapon out of his mouth, and I introduced him to his wife later, and we're still great friends. So you just never know what somebody's going through. So try and be compassionate. Always keep your sense of humor, and just help each other.
Yeah, I think you said it best. RJ, I could spend hours talking with you. I love your stories. And unfortunately, if we do, neither one of us would ever get our work done.
Right.
So with that, thank you so much for spending your time with me and just sharing just a little bit of your story, the wonderful work that you do. I can't wait to find out what's next for you.
Me too.
But again, thank you so much for just a little bit of glimpse of your rock bottom moments and just the amazing work. And yeah, I appreciate it.
Well, it was an honor to be here. Thank you so much, and good luck with everything. I'm looking forward to seeing more of your shows, so thank you for that. And thank you for the message you're sending all of us.
Appreciate it. Thanks for being here. Keep rising, keep speaking your truth, and always remember, you are the storm.